Shen Qingqiu was silent for a long time. He finally tossed the invitation into Mingfan's arms for him to file away. Luo Binghe was receiving Menmo's guidance within the dream realm every day, and he was progressing at a lightning speed. He had long since assumed responsibility for many things. Shen Qingqiu often happily assigned some of Changqiu Mountain's trivial internal tasks to him. Once he became older, he had also been tossed missions to eliminate demons or help people down the mountain, in part so that he wouldn't spend every day tagging after Shen Qingqiu. Though Shen Qingqiu was comfortable being waited upon, he wasn't sure if Luo Binghe's development had gone awry or something. Wasn't he sticking to his master a little too closely? Shen Qingqiu would often wonder, oh man, was it because I doted on him too much? Should I besmirch myself a little as appropriate to prove to the system that I'm firmly a villain? If things kept going on as they were, he was afraid that when the time came, he would be unable to harden his heart and throw Luo Binghe into the endless abyss. However, though Shen Qingqiu told himself this, every time he finished thinking about it, the next time he saw Luo Binghe, and that pure and innocent face, that hard-working figure, he would always, immediately, praise him out of habit. Oh, so you finished copying the scrolls, rescued the people, found the things, and are also done cooking. Well done. After that praise, he'd forget his original intentions. Mingfan filed the invitation away and saw that Shen Qingqiu's complexion wasn't especially good. It occurred to him that since that stinking brat Luo Binghe had gone down the mountain, Shi Zun had only picked at the kitchen's fare. In the last few days, he hadn't eaten properly at all.
Shi Zun, shall this disciple prepare some congee?
Mingfan asked. Shen Qingqiu really had no appetite and waved him away. No need, you can go. Mingfan didn't dare to say more, and he obediently took his leave, but his heart flooded with tears. In the last couple of years, that brat Luo Binghe had become Shi Zun's absolute favorite.
I can't even serve Shi Zun a single mouthful of congee.
Notably, Mingfan didn't consider that perhaps the issue was with his own cooking skills. After some time, more footsteps approached. Didn't I say there was no need? Shen Qingqiu said. This disciple rushed a considerable distance, all the way from the outer provinces, and Shi Zun won't give me even a single glance before refusing me. The voice was gentle and clear, and it even carried a hint of teasing dismay. Upon hearing it, Shen Qingqiu almost fell to the ground along with his chair. He jerked his head around. A 17-year-old youth, slim, tall, and graceful, dressed in white robes, lips turned upward into the hint of a smile, gazed at him with a pair of shining eyes. The long sword on Luo Binghe's back was Zhenyang, drawn from the Wanjian Peak. Its name, Righteous Sun, complemented the current Luo Binghe's temperament well. The sword's blade glistened with a sacred light, and it was a good, high-quality weapon. When Luo Binghe had pulled it free from the rock wall, it had elicited a wave of surprised exclamations and praise from various sect members. But compared to Luo Binghe's true personal sword, it was a toothpick. Shen Qingqiu composed himself. Why have you returned so quickly this time? Luo Binghe sat in the seat next to his and steadily poured a cup of tea, then pushed it towards Shen Qingqiu's hand. The disaster wasn't difficult to handle. I also missed Shi Zun terribly, so I rushed back without stopping to rest. These words sounded rather slick and insincere, but since Luo Binghe was a male lead, he had the ability to make the slickest of smooth-talking matchlessly warm and genuine. On Shen Qingqiu, this attack was super effective. Shen Qingqiu picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. It was a fragrant snowy mountain blend, plundered from Qiongjing Peak, but he couldn't taste it at all. The Immortal Alliance Conference is about to begin, Shen Qingqiu said. Luo Binghe had long known about this. Would you like this disciple to draft a list of Qiongjing Peak's participating disciples and give it to Shi Zun to check? These last couple of years, Shen Qingqiu had handed all manner of miscellaneous tasks, big and small, to Luo Binghe to deal with. After all, for now, Luo Binghe was so sweet, obedient and useful, his work thorough and meticulous. Shen Qingqiu could think of absolutely no reason why he should do these things himself. Before finalizing anything, Luo Binghe always conscientiously asked Shen Qingqiu to look over his work to check for any problems. Shen Qingqiu always wanted to say, "Actually, you don't need me to check it, seriously. You're much better at handling these things than I am." Instead, Shen Qingqiu said, "When you finish the draft, report directly to sect leader Yue Qingyuan." Luo Binghe nodded. He had more to say, but he sensed something slightly off. Shen Qingqiu seemed to be paying extra attention to him today. He couldn't help but smile. "Why does Shizun keep looking at me?" he asked. Could it be that this disciple was gone for so long that Shizun also missed him? "Am I not allowed to look at someone I raised?" asked Shen Qingqiu. Luo Binghe chortled. "Of course Shizun is allowed. Am I pleasing to look at?" Shen Qingqiu shook his head while smiling, and he considered his next words. "Binghe." "Yes?" Luo Binghe's expression instantly turned serious. He had realized that Shen Qingqiu had something important to say. Shen Qingqiu stared into his eyes. "Do you want to become stronger? Stronger until you are without rival, until no one beneath the heavens would dare challenge you?" Luo Binghe had possessed an answer to this question for a long time now. Sitting squarely, without the slightest hesitation, he looked straight back. Yes! This resolute answer made Shen Qingqiu release a breath of relief within his heart. Even if in order to achieve that, you had to suffer through pain, torment, and countless tribulations, to the point that your body and heart were about to collapse, you would still want to become the strongest? Shen Qingqiu continued. Binghe does not fear suffering and tribulations, Luo Binghe said slowly. I only wish to become strong enough to protect the people and things that are important to me. This answer finally settled Shen Qingqiu's thoughts a little. That's right, Luo Binghe. For the sake of protecting the myriad harem of jade and flower-like beauties you'll embrace in the future, you must become strong. Shen Qingqiu's heart was still unwilling, but when he remembered that this suffering was something that the protagonist had to experience in order to break free from his chrysalis and become a butterfly, he had no choice but to adjust his mindset. Although he was already adept at brainwashing himself thus, it wasn't like he felt the slightest bit of happiness at the thought, just because he'd forced himself to think it so many times. 3 days later, each of the Changqiu Mountain's 12 peaks had prepared their participant rosters and headed to the conference. This time, the Immortal Alliance Conference was set to convene at Juedi Gorge, a rolling mountain range with complex terrain that extended for many kilometers. People of established reputation were conscious of their rank and didn't participate in the conference, i.e., they didn't compete with their juniors for the limelight. There was no need. It would have been beneath them. Therefore, the 12-peak lord and members of their generation didn't sign up. The cap on the number of spots was nevertheless high. Naturally, the more the better, and in the end, around 100 well-equipped individuals set out in a grand style for Juedi Gorge. So many people flying on their swords would have been too high profile and disturbed civilians, so they did travel by carriage. A cultivation novel where they sat in carriages and rode horses all day. Shen Qingqiu still couldn't understand why airplanes shooting towards the sky had stuck to this setup, but no matter how much it merited roasting, after 3 years one simply ran out of words. At this point, he was numb to it. The majority chose to ride horses, their bearings heroic and valiant. However, firstly, Shen Qingqiu wasn't good at riding and didn't want to fall and break his neck. Secondly, he disdained all exposure to the wind, sun, and rain. It wasn't comfortable nor elegant, and so he wormed his way into a carriage under a crowd of watchful eyes. Someone else had long since entered the carriage before him. "A big, strong man like you trying to steal my spot?" she said with contempt as he lifted the curtain with his fan and slid inside. This woman, with beautiful eyebrows, a full chest, and thick, gorgeous hair, was Xuanshu Peak's master, Qi Qingqi. In the original work, Qi Qingqi and Shen Qingqiu had no real relationship and very few interactions. However, over the past few years, Shen Qingqiu had occasionally worked with her. He found her straightforward and fierce, and he got along with her decently well. I am frail and indisposed, Shen Qingqiu said with perfect composure, as he used his fan to shoo her into giving him room. Qi Qingqi moved to do so, but she refused to spare him her words. Pampered and spoiled. Being so delicate and coddled is totally unbefitting of a cultivator at core formation stage. Will you also be needing someone to serve you snacks later? Shen Qingqiu looked like he's just had an epiphany. Hey, right. Many thanks to Marshall Sister for the reminder. While speaking, he rapped on the carriage wall with his fan's guard. A short while later, the carriage curtain lifted. Luo Binghe smiled. Shizun, snacks, water, or is your waist sore? A lively and energetic white horse, a handsome and extraordinary youth, with the sun beaming down from above, both seemed to shine before their eyes. Your Qi martial aunt would like some snacks, said Shen Qingqiu. Luo Binghe immediately withdrew an exquisitely wrapped snack from his robe and offered it to them. It looked like he'd long been prepared for this. If Shizun has any more orders, please call for me. Only then did he let the curtain down. Liu Qingke spurred his horse on past them with a powerful and resounding hm. Of course, Binghe, said Shen Qingqiu. He lowered his head and opened the wrapping. Dragon's beard candy, not bad. He turned to pass the snack to Qi Qingqi. Want some? Qi Qingqi found it difficult to describe her current emotional state. More or less, it was indignation. Luo Binghe was a good disciple, so considerate, with such immense spiritual energy, and Shen Qingqiu, of all people, was the one who had raised him. In truth, indignation didn't cover it. She just didn't know there was a phrase that nailed the feeling. It was, quote, my damn dog eyes, unquote. Qi Qingqi refused to look at Shen Qingqiu as he ate the dragon beard's candy, but she made one final attempt. Even Ming Yan's on a horse. As long as she could make Shen Qingqiu even feel a scrap of shame, she would claim victory. It just so happened that Shen Qingqiu had nothing better to do, so he looked outside. Indeed, Liu Mingyan sat straight on her horse, her face covered with a veil, her personal sword, Shui Se, on her back. A faint breeze blew by, fluttering the veil and giving her an air of ethereal lightness. This picture was far too pleasing to the eye. Shen Qingqiu couldn't help but gaze at her for a while, sighing. Ah, beautiful beyond comprehension. Pei! Qi Jingqi snapped at his face. Don't look at my beloved disciples with such covetous eyes! Luo Binghe heard this back and forth, and his face paled. But Shen Qingqiu didn't notice his expression at all, and continued eating while gazing at Liu Mingyan. He was in the mode of someone in a theater before a movie, eating popcorn and drinking soda while waiting for the ads to end and for the film to begin. That was Liu Mingyan. The male and female leads were in the same venue. How could there not be sparks flying and amorous feelings budding between them? As Luo Binghe saw his master staring so intently at Liu Mingyan, the hand with which he held his reins couldn't help but tighten, the knuckles turning white. Beautiful beyond comprehension, he muttered. She wasn't even showing her entire face. No matter how beautiful she was, could she be better looking than him? Luo Binghe honestly wasn't a narcissist. He'd just always been very self-aware of how he looked to others. He didn't gleefully revel in his appearance, but he also wouldn't downplay it for the sake of false humility. After a long time, during which Shen Qingqiu showed no sign of diverting his gaze, Luo Binghe could no longer stand it. He lightly urged his mount with his whip, and the white horse quickly moved forward until its bridle was even with Liu Mingyan's. Luo Binghe inclined his head and smiled in greeting. Liu Marshal Sister. Liu Mingyan startled, then nodded shallowly, returning the greeting. Luo Marshal Brother. It started. A once-in-a-lifetime chance had actually come. With his own eyes, Shen Qingqiu could watch a peerlessly handsome man and a beautiful woman from a book ride together bridle to bridle. He was secretly overjoyed, and he couldn't resist leaning out further to watch. Luo Binghe saw in his peripheral vision that Shen Qingqiu's gaze hadn't moved, and in fact, he was staring at them even more intently. His face grew shadowed, his heart stuffy and teeth itchy. So he laughed and chatted with Liu Mingye while sneakily urging their horses faster and faster, until they were far enough away that Shen Qingqiu could no longer see them without leaning his whole torso out of the carriage. Shen Qingqiu could only resume his proper seat, disappointed. How could he forget? When a male and female lead were cooing at each other, a third wheel could never hang out around like this, like a glaring fluorescent light, nor could there be a meddlesome audience. Although, if that child had grown up so far that he wanted to hide his romances from his elders, was it possible that his rebellious stage had finally arrived?